and welcome to another South Carolina installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. I'm your host, Reggie Hall. Coming up in this half hour, we'll take a look at the importance of transportation and agriculture and talk about trucking your food from the farm to the distribution center to your table. We'll also talk to the South Carolina Transport Police. They're getting ready to enforce a federal regulation requiring local DOT numbers on commercial vehicles that do business in South Carolina. We'll tell you about those plans, and we'll talk briefly about South Carolina Farm Bureau's recent annual meeting and share some highlights from the last year in the life of Farm Bureau. Of course, we'll also introduce you to a farmer outstanding in his field, and we'll share with you our beautiful palmetto portraits. All that and more coming up when South Carolina's installment of Voices of Agriculture continues.
To say agribusiness in South Carolina is a growth industry is really an understatement. Farming and forestry contribute some $34 billion to our state's economy every year. Yet the potential is far greater. $50 billion is achievable by the year 2020 as we work together in a focused effort to develop new and greater markets and achieve what we call 50 by 20. Agribusiness, it's a growing force in South Carolina's economy.
Hello and welcome back to South Carolina's installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. I'm your host, Reggie Hall. Think about it. There's hardly any product that you use on a regular basis that did not travel some distance on a truck. In fact, there are many misperceptions about American agriculture, including the fact that people think that clothes come from the stores or malls and that food comes from the grocery store or restaurants. And while that may be true, those products ultimately traveled on trucks. Trucking is critical for American agriculture. Without it, commodities would not be able to leave the field, go to processors, or end up in our shopping markets. The trucking industry carries 70% of the tonnage of agricultural food, forest products, alcohols, and fertilizers. Trucks link farmers with manufacturers, service industries, grain elevators, ethanol plants, processors, feedlots, fresh markets, and export facilities. Rick Todd is the president of the South Carolina Trucking Association.
You know, trucks can go anywhere as long as there's a road. It doesn't even have to be paved. But trains can only go where there are tracks. Boats can only go where there are, where there's deep water, and planes only where they can take off and land.
Trucks move goods in and around population centers, from distribution points to shopping centers and markets. Trucks also have dominated the movements of meat and milk products, fresh fruits and vegetables, and other high-value products because of the truck's speed, reliability, predictability, and proven ability to move goods directly from farms and production points to end destinations. Each 18-wheeler on the road with a 53-foot trailer can haul 40 to 45,000 pounds of product anywhere within an 11-hour distance. Walter P. Rawl & Sons Farm, headquartered in central South Carolina, has grown since its days as a peach farm back in the 1920s. Now the farm ships fresh fruits and vegetables year-round from its South Carolina farm to points as far northwest as Wisconsin, southwest as Dallas, Texas, and northeast to Maine. W.P. Rawl operates a modern satellite-equipped large truck fleet, complete with state-of-the-art air ride and refrigerated trailers. Robert Stevenson is the farm's transportation manager, charged with keeping the trucks moving in and out like a well-orchestrated symphony.
Farming business without trucks would be non-existent. It takes trucks to bring product in, seed, plants for the fields, fertilizers, and then also to deliver that product to the customers. With trucks, we're able to meet our customers' needs on timing of delivery. We have a very perishable product.
In some cases, WP Rawls ships its fresh picked and packaged produce to distribution centers like the W. Lee Flowers and Company Wholesale Distribution and Trucking Center in Scranton, South Carolina. W. Lee Flowers is the primary distributor to IGA grocery stores across South Carolina. LeGrand Miles is Vice President of Operations for the distributor, founded in 1922. The company now has 216 employees and operates round the clock 7 days a week. The warehouse stocks nearly 20,000 items, including a variety of dry goods, frozen products, and refrigerated fresh produce. Orders from IGA stores are filled by pickers who drive computer-assisted forklifts.
What we're doing is we're receiving dry grocery product on this dock. And what our receivers are doing, when they check it in, you'll see they have a little handheld, what we call computer gun. Once they scan the merchandise, it goes straight into inventory. It's ready for shipment. And then you'll see some other people that are readjusting the size of the pallets. What they're doing is they're making that merchandise to the level which will fit straight into our shipping slots. We give all of our stores 3 refrigerated deliveries a week, and all of our grocery stores a minimum of 2 dry grocery deliveries, sometimes 3, depending on the volume of the store.
Of course, local stores also receive other shipments throughout the week, like farm fresh produce, straight from the field to the stores. Collards are a particular cold weather favorite this time of year. Stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll go to the dairy and show you why milk haulers are more than your ordinary average truck driver, when South Carolina's installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture continues. Hello and welcome back to South Carolina's installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. I'm your host, Reggie Hall. We're talking about the trucking industry and its importance to agriculture across the United States. Did you know that 80% of the communities across the country are served exclusively by truck? That means without trucks, our nation's cupboards and store shelves would be barren. In many cases, agriculture's trucking needs are seasonal, requiring frequent trips during planting and harvest seasons. Most agricultural products are perishable and time-sensitive, requiring the efficiency, special handling, or refrigerated services best provided by trucks. One such commodity requiring year-round, 365-day-a-year special handling is raw milk. Weathers Trucking in Orangeburg, South Carolina, began back in the 1930s. As the farm grew, there was a need to get their fresh milk to market. Half of all trucking companies in the United States own one truck, driven by the owner. Landy Weathers runs the trucking company founded by his grandfather, who was one of the original members of the old Interstate Commerce Commission.
Started back in the late 70s, one truck, one tanker, hauling our milk from our farm to Columbia, one load every other day, which amounts to at that time, it was about 3,000 gallons in the gallon terminology per day. Presently hauling, I think it's between the 2 co-ops, we're hauling 11 loads one day and 10 loads the other day. So it's 21 loads per 2 days. Takes 7 trucks every day on the road. We presently employ 10 full-time drivers.
Not only do Weathers drivers have to hold CDLs, or commercial driver's licenses, they must also have to be certified by the state's health department as food handlers. Once drivers pull into each dairy, they have to do a thorough or strict regime of measuring and testing each load before filling their tanker with the raw milk product.
It's a good niche market. Not a lot of people want to be in a business that's 7 days a week, 24/7.
In addition to milk hauling, Weathers Trucking also hauls their own row crops to market, including soybeans, corn, and peanuts. Commercial vehicles that operate exclusively within the borders of South Carolina will have to comply with new regulations in 2011. We'll have that story and more as South Carolina's installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture continues. Hello and welcome back to South Carolina's installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. I'm your host, Reggie Hall. Chances are you've pulled up alongside an 18-wheeler and seen a US DOT number on the side of the cab. But it's a unique number required by the federal regulations on large commercial vehicles that travel across state lines. The identifier helps the feds collect and monitor safety information. By the end of the year 2011, South Carolina will require a similar unique number on all commercial vehicles that travel within the state's borders. Captain Bruce Bailey is with the South Carolina Transport Police and explains.
So if the vehicle has a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds, then it would be required to have this intrastate DOT number. Also, if it's hauling hazardous material, they would be required to do that because a vehicle of any size hauling hazardous material will need a DOT number. If it transports more than 8 passengers, including the driver, for compensation. Now, for your target audience, that won't hit so much, but there could be some farms out there that actually would have a bus for moving some of their workers around. But the key there is for compensation. They're not charging those workers to ride that bus. So in that respect, they would not need one for that particular vehicle. And then if it's big enough to have 15 passengers, regardless of compensation, but the smaller buses won't have any problem. And as I said earlier, hazardous material of any size vehicle.
Now that 10,001 pounds, that could be a large pickup truck.
It could very well be. Just for example, the heavy-duty F-350s, and just throwing a number out there that some of your viewers and readers will be familiar with. If it's the heavy-duty pickup truck with a dually, as they call it, in the rear, it could very well be 10,001 pound, yes sir. All this is used for is to place the vehicles with the owners correctly, because in some situations we found we have lease operations and we could have 2 or 3 different names. And with this South Carolina DOT number, we can make sure that the vehicles that are checked or used in the state for agricultural purposes, who they actually belong to and are registered to.
The State Transport Police have published the following phone numbers and websites to help people through the registration process in South Carolina. Truck operators will have until October 1st, 2011 to register their 10,001 pounds or heavier intrastate commercial vehicles. Afterwards, the driver may receive a ticket and fine of $100 for failure to comply with the regulation.
Years of farming, 30 years of heartache, 30 years of day to day. Yeah, my daddy stopped talking the day the farm was auctioned. There was nothing left to say. Hey, I'm Linwood Turner from Maysville, South Carolina. I'm a row crop farmer, a trucker, the lead singer, and guitar picker with Scapo Bluegrass Company. We all ran out just to see what that could say. When I got out of Clemson in '62, started farming, and I always had a truck on the farm, but I really started seriously trucking, hauling grain in like '88. My granddaddy started this farm, and he had a grits mill and a sawmill and a cotton gin over across the highway, and my dad was farming it, and I came back and I taught school 3 years, worked with him on the farm some, and he finally just quit with it, and I took it over back in the early '70s, and I've running up until the present. I always had a truck on the farm and hauled my grain and some other grain, but mostly mine. And then I downsized on the farm from trying to farm half the countryside, and I started hauling grain. In 80 and 81, we had 2 horrible dry years, and that was enough to convince me that I needed to do something else if I was going to continue to farm. So I started kind of doing this as a sideline, and now, I'm kind of doing it 70% and maybe farming 30%. I haul for Farm Bureau out of King Street. Farm Bureau is farm oriented. It's just always been around, and Hugo came through and tore up everything in the world, and Farm Bureau was right here to take charge and do their job and do what they were supposed to do. I don't know any notes, and I don't know a whole lot about music, but I played guitar and started singing a little bit. Did country music for a while, and then we finally got into bluegrass, and one thing led to another, and we played a lot of events in this area. We don't go too far. We've been cashiers, I think. North Carolina's about the furthest we've ever been, but we have a good time. You never make a living out of it, but it's a lot of fun, and it kind of gets your blood pressure down. The farm was auctioned, there was nothing left to say.
South Carolina Farm Bureau members met recently for their 67th annual meeting. During that meeting, about 1,500 farm families gathered and determined the course of action the organization will take in the year 2011. Also during that meeting, South Carolina Farm Bureau President David Winkles narrated video highlights of the organization's accomplishments in 2010. Let's listen in on what he had to say.
So much of the business we conduct here at our annual meeting drives our lobbying efforts at the State House. I'm proud to report that we had another successful year in the General Assembly. Among our victories was the passage of surface water legislation that treats agricultural users fairly. The legislation continues to recognize agriculture as a priority user of water. Few lawmakers truly appreciate South Carolina's vast agriculture and natural resources network and what those services mean to farmers, as well as the entire state's economy. Agribusiness remains the state's largest economic engine, generating $34 billion a year and accounting for nearly 200,000 jobs. South Carolina Agriculture and Farm Bureau were in the national spotlight last summer as the Federation helped sponsor the Southern Legislative Conference held in Charleston. The event is one of the largest gatherings of its type in the country. Organizers allocated an entire day for us to promote South Carolina agriculture and to discuss Southeastern issues like animal rights and the environment. We have a strong government relations team, which includes not only Federation staff, but active members, those who've answered the call to speak up and speak out for agriculture. Farm Bureau continues to take a strong stand against tax increases, but when it became evident this year that the cigarette tax was going up, we worked hard to see that $1 million of the new funds collected went toward South Carolina Agriculture's marketing and branding campaign. If you want to get involved in our government relations activities on the state or national level, contact your county Farm Bureau leaders and plan to attend one of our district legislative kickoff meetings this winter. That's where we'll discuss our priority policies for the coming year and plan strategies to address those policies. From time to time, there are also opportunities to get involved on the local level. The Federation has increased its role to help county farm bureaus monitor local issues that affect farmers. In the past 12 months, we've worked to defeat ordinances that were detrimental to agriculture, and we continue to build relationships with county officials across the state. We also work hard to train leaders, beginning with young people through our Summer Youth Leadership Conference and Ambassador Program, and through our Young Farmer and Rancher and Women's Leadership Programs. Our young farmer and ranchers have done an excellent job in recent years promoting Farm Bureau's mission and growing the intensity and size of the program. Speaking of young farmers, Farm Bureau is involved in a brand new federal grant program for new and beginning farmers. We collaborated with a number of other ag and natural resource entities in the state to help new and beginning farmers be successful, productive, and innovative members of their local ag communities. Our Women's Committee also works hard to tell the farm story through events like Food Checkout Week and by raising money for other agricultural promotion activities. State Women's Chair Frances Price does a great job leading the committee and represents us well as a member of the American Farm Bureau Women's Leadership Committee. Farm Bureau enjoys partnerships with a number of allied organizations. One such venture is coordinated by the Palmetto Agribusiness Council. We design and mail postcards to the homes of legislators several times a year with an ag promotional message. We sent one just a few weeks ago with a Thanksgiving message and reminded them that farm and forestry combined is the #1 industry in South Carolina. Our Ag in the Classroom program continues to be a huge success across the state, with a waiting list of teachers each year who want to attend our Summer Teacher Institute and a growing number of reservations by county farm bureaus wanting to use the Ag in the Classroom Combine Simulator at schools, festivals, and fairs. We already have dates booked well into 2011. Of course, our Ag in the Classroom program got a big financial boost last year when the state began selling the Our Farms, Our Future Ag license plate. If you've already purchased one for your vehicle, thank you. If you follow social media, you'll be pleased to know that the South Carolina Farm Bureau now has a presence on Facebook with close to 500 followers, and on YouTube, Twitter, and Flickr. The next time you're surfing the web, check it out.
Well, that's all the time we have for South Carolina's installment of Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. Thanks for watching. And remember, if you're not a member of your county or parish Farm Bureau, take advantage of all the membership opportunities we have to offer. Look into it today. Until next time, I'm your host, Reggie Hall.